Okay, I like to make things personal. I'm sitting here because I'm ill. My health is not good, which is terrible because I can't walk much and so on and so on. But it's great because my diseases, being in hospitals and stuff like that, has taught me a lot about who I am. And this book I'm writing about identity is really the story of me finding out what identity is, who I am. Or in my case, the identities, the multiple identities I am. I found out most people have them, and I have them. And one of those identities, some people would call them personality, but the personality is really just the expression of an identity. One of those identities is really like sickening. The other ones are fine, but so this made me sick. So I worked with a team, Professor Stanley Krippner and a number of people in the States, and all kinds of ideas evolved, trying to understand why I was sick. And the book is a result. I'm still not healed, so maybe the book needs more. Why is identity important? Is it because we talk about identity politics? Is it because it's in the news, it's kind of a hip word? Well, to start with, I think identity and identification are mixed up. When we talk about me being, I don't know, my Einstein look today, yeah? Am I white? Am I a biker? Am I transgender? Am I whatever, whatever, whatever? Those are not identities. Those are identifications. We identify with being whatever, a biker, being, you name it, you do it. So in the media and in the popular science, these things get mixed up. We talk about identity politics, Islam and stuff like that, but it's really not it. It's identification. So what is identification? Identification is a very important mechanism. We need it to break away from the mother. We're in the womb, we identify with the mother, but then we have to identify with ourselves. We have to find ourselves, that we are different. So identification is a very normal process. And if identification in life is within a coherent framework, we could call it the myth of our life or religion, whatever, it seems to be okay. But these days, identification is something else. Now, you might not like this, but Wilhelm Reich said, we exchange inferiority complexes for superiority environments. You get that? He called it fascism. I call it identification. We identify with the bikers, Islam, you name it, yeah? Apple user. And it's a fundamental principle in our society. We identify all the time with all kinds of crap. Why? Because we feel inferior. Those of you who don't have an inferiority complex probably don't use computers, don't drive Maseratis or Teslas. They're not vegan. Vegan is a great identification. But it is also, in my view, a way to mask the fact that you feel not complete. Now, I wrote this book with Stan Krippner, who is an anthropologist. And he has seen all the world. And the question we have is, how is it possible that you put people in an initiation ritual to the worst, and they come out without problems, without what we call PTSD and all kinds of stuff that we have in the West? We send people to Afghanistan, and 40% comes back with PTSD, yeah? We put people to university, and I think maybe 20% or 40% comes out with serious problems, traumas about prestation. Yeah, don't smile. I have a 12-year-old daughter who goes to school, and I ask her to come with me to London. So not a daughter, a granddaughter, so I'm old. Come to London with me. I said, no, I have to do exams. She has to do something what we call SAT test or whatever, yeah? She's obsessed with getting this. Not because she does it, because the school does it, the system does it. You see the trauma with result of trauma being sleeplessness and this and that emerging. Society is full with this shit. So identification is a trap. It's not good. And identity politics, which is another word to say that people identify a lot, is not good. Now, I'm not the only one who says this. There's people who say that like, the American political system, because of the identification with subgroups and whatever, has splintered. The left has not been able to get together. That's why Trump is there, and so on and so on. But identification is one of the major, I wouldn't say problems, but let's look at it. Why do we identify? It is because we're taught and told from very early on, you are not perfect. You're wrong. This morning, I was sitting somewhere, and I put my legs like that. And then a he too thing happened. A lady came to me and said, oh, that's men-spreading. Yeah, you know this? Yeah? I never heard about it, but it's men-spreading, so you have to sit like that. I don't call this me too, it's he too, yes? I'm a victim of the he too movement that I have to sit here like that. Yeah? And the whole Me Too movement is, I would say women got frustrated because of the lack of chance and opportunity in society, and they found a new identification. It's called Me Too. And they go back 40 years and 30 years and whatever, and man, someone is going to be extremely rich writing books about Me Too and how bad it is. Is it really bad? I don't know. I'm just saying it's an identification. And in the West, it is usually a way to cover inferiority complexes, whatever you call it. You know, not feeling well, not feeling healthy, not feeling beautiful, not feeling slim, whatever we do. And it's not only the society at large, it is everywhere. Apple is the great example, of course, yes? One time I had a lawsuit with Apple because I called them fascistoid. They dropped the case after when they saw what I wrote. I said they are using the us and them metaphor, like you use Apple, you're better. They don't say it's for the better ones, for the good ones. You use Apple because you are smarter and better and whatever. It works. It works for Tesla, it works for probably Mercedes and whatever. It works for political parties. But is it healthy? I don't know. So ask yourself, if you identify with anything, am I covering something, or is there really something out there that is worth my attention, my energy, whatever? Identification is only a very small part of identity. Now, let me try to... Here. When writing this book about identity, we face the problem that what the hell is identity? Can you define it? What the hell is dissociation? What the hell is ego? What the hell is identification? What the hell is a mask? Because psychology and medical books are full. So, if you can see that, that is our model. So we are using words like self in a limited way. We don't, of course, I mentioned that there is the idea of the higher self, yes, like in the Eastern tradition, but we don't use it because then you make self an objective word. We said no, self is a subjective notion you have about who you are. You look into the mirror and you see yourself. Yeah? You don't see yourself. It's an illusion. We know that. Yeah? What you see is your interpretation, your subjective image. So here you see personality. You have the identity. And you see personality is not the same as identity. Personality is just a part. It's the expressed part of your identity. All the hidden shit, all the sub and unconscious stuff is not expressed. It does work out sometimes into it, but personality is the expression of your identity. Now, that's a definition, yes? That's what we used in the book. Other people mix up identity, this and that, and even in the DSM-5, if you know what it is, yes, the psychiatric handbook, they kind of know that. They changed the word multiple personality syndrome into dissociated identity disorder, yeah? So they kind of understand identity is more, it's wider, it's the all. Yeah? So this is one of the ways of trying to redefine all these words. And maybe you notice the word ego isn't there. Because bloody hell, you read Freud and you read this guy and that, what the hell is ego, yeah? Oh, you have a bad ego. What does it mean? You know, it's like a projection. So ego is not a nice word for us. Other words are. But this is just an attempt to say, divide what you're talking about and make clear what you're talking about. Good. Identity. Core identity, primary identity, and substitute identity. How do we develop more identities? Now, I'm talking about myself because seemingly when I was 11, something happened that gave me another identity. And I don't know what it was. Something happened, a traumatic experience, and I forgot about it. Now we're trying with psychedelics, and I know a lot about psychedelics. Oh, by the way, my books are there, €5 or 5 francs, whatever. You get them. I used psychedelics, I used holotropic breathwork, everything, to find out who I was. And I couldn't come to that trauma. Maybe one of you will help me to find out, but it was like at 11 years old. That trauma caused me to step away from the identity I had at the time, what we would call the primary identity, the one my mother gave me, I hope, if she was my mother and so on and so on. But anyway, this person in my life that I came out gave me that identity. And then at 11, something happened. I couldn't handle the situation. We think it's a medical thing. We don't really know what it is. And then I developed a new identity. Now, in the literature, people talk about sub-personalities, people talk about multiple personalities, people talk about alters, ego states, many, many, many words. I coined the word substitute identity. Little complex word, I agree, but it's clear. It's a substitute for my primary identity. So that developed out of a trauma, and so now I have a core identity, that inner child in me, that's original one. If I take psychedelics, I go there. Yeah, I go into that state where time and place is more nice place. Then I have the primary identity, maybe what I'm here, like intelligent, Einstein, Luc, shit like that. And I have the second one. And the second one is a nasty. It has to do with relationships, it has to do with medical situations. So I have 3. And I'm not a DID person in the sense that those identities are separate from themselves totally. They're just different software programs running the same hardware. And the shift happens because of a trigger. Now we go to your lives. You've never heard this story, but you all know that daddy has these moods, Sometimes daddy sitting there and he gets into this mood. Or your mother has that, she becomes something different. We call them moods. But if you really look at them, their voice changes. Their face changes. Lots of things change. Now again, I come to myself. I'm in a wheelchair sometimes. This is the second personality. Not very nice. Painful, cannot get up. I take acid, LSD, Hoffman's cure. It takes about 10 minutes. I can get up, I can walk, I can dance for 3 hours. Huh? How is that possible? Well, very simple. Same hardware, needs a little adaptation, so the knees that really works very fast. But there's something, I use another software program. So, multiple substitute identities are quite common. And they're more common in societies like in America, where we already saw that identification is a trend, where lack of self-confidence is a trend. So seemingly, the more substitute identities you have, the more PTSD happens, the more traumatic experience affects you, more, hey. In America, about 10% of the people, of the female have PTSD, and 7% of the male, and among. In India, it's 0.6%. In Africa, 0.4%. In Europe, 2-3%. There is a distinct difference in the number of PTSD cases. And now you say, yeah, but that don't count really good in India. No, you're right. But this was done by the World Health Organization in hospitals and so on. So there is some story there. Okay, so what do we get? We get a person like me who has more identities. There's a little picture with 3 identities. It means I show different masks or different personalities to other people. Now don't be mixed up. Within one personality you can have different masks. You can act to your boss, and you can act to your, you're mature, you can act like a child, and so on. Within a personality, we can do many things, but I'm talking about real personalities, real identities. Okay, now this is nice. Now I know this about myself, but as I started, it has to do with my health. And I know now that my disease, my problems, are in one identity, in one personality. So the cure must be there too. So the general theory we have is that any disease is a conflict between identities. And it's located in one thing. And the way to deal with it is to bring you back to that thing. Now, how many of you know about EMDR? Most people know what it is. It's the eye trick, like that. Yeah? And it's very useful. It kind of works. It's a body-mind mechanism we don't totally understand, but it works. How does it work? You bring people back to the state of panic, in other words, to their identity where the problem is, and then you're going to overload by making them look like that, yeah? And there's other ways, like EFT and whatever. You overload the system, and for some reason, the problem underlying that personality is kind of mitigated, let's call it that. It's maybe not gone, but the symptoms go away. So, EMDR kind of proves or supports my idea that a disease is located in one identity. Now, how practical is this? Yeah. Well, lots of people come to me. I seem to be extrasensory, and so lots of cancer patients come to me, and you suggest to them, and I have ways to look at it, and we use all kinds of technology, and we suggest to them a cure or a way to deal with it. And after a while, I realized that the best way to deal with, in this case, cancer, is shift your life. Change your life fundamentally. And it doesn't matter whether you do a diet, whether you divorce from your guy, find another job, get out of your house, start walking naked, I don't know, become a vegan. As long as you fundamentally do something to keep away that conflict-causing identity. Because there was something that triggered it. But we don't know what it was. Maybe it was, the color of your shirt, or I don't know. Yeah, many things. Yeah, watching television, your smartphone, whatever. So make a break in your life, change your life fundamentally, and we have seen incredible results. Now, you want to be shocked, eh? I'm always here to shock you people. Remember, there was a guy by the name of Jesus, and he did miracles. Yeah, you must have heard somewhere, Bible or whatever. It turns out in those days there were many of these miracle men. They would go around and they would cure people. And even today, if you go to a place like Lourdes, like people go there and they pray and they get cured. Like, wow. Like I got cured when I took LSD. I didn't get cured, but I could walk for 3 hours. Yeah, it's a miracle. It's a miracle. Yeah. I think that's what happened in Lourdes. People have an identity where their disease is located. And for some reason, watching the Virgin Mary or whatever it is, something changes. They step in another identity and they walk. Do they walk after 5 years? I don't know. There's the church doing all that stuff and so you get holy. If I would get, documented all the miracles I did, I would be holy or saintly 1,000 times. Because this happens all the time. The problem is, if the people go back to their old situation, the stuff comes back. Okay. Identity and identification. What else do we have? Diversity. Diversity. That's another word. Interested in diversity, what it is? Diversity is difference, change. It's a fundamental force of life. Without diversity, nothing happens. Life doesn't happen. But there is a diversity curve. And what you see there is what I call a diversity effect curve. Now look at this. Maybe a long time ago, you did economics and you had all those curves. Of course, this is not a specific curve. This is the general curve of diversity. And what you see, if there's a vertical, which means the level of diversity, which you can define in Vietnamese, and on the right vertical is the effect, horizontal is the level of diversity. Now, if there is no diversity, you just imagine a class with 25 kids that are all the same. Nothing will happen, they will just sit there. Yeah? Nothing will happen. There is no difference. If you have a company with all the same people, it doesn't work. So, when diversity is 0, the effect is actually you start to sleep. Then it starts to happen. Little differences in income, in intelligence, in activity, whatever, and the curve goes up. The effect becomes positive. And it peaks out. Of course it peaks out. But then the problem comes if you go on with diversity, and just to make this very nasty, so you have a class with 20 intelligent kids, and you're also a little bit different, but then you have 3 stupid kids. No problem. They'll deal with it. Probably the non-intelligent kids will learn and go with the move. But if they become 5 or 7, and at a certain moment, there are too many. And of course, I'm not talking about kids in school, my friends. I'm talking about how our society in the West, especially in Holland and in Germany, we have what they call allochtone people from a different background, yeah? A little bit is fine. Nice! Different food, different music. No, very positive. And then we get too many, the curve goes down. And if the curve goes down, which means the diversity gets too big, chaos. Now you can say, yeah, but the chaos could lead to a catharsis, revolution, and we're going to have the Islamic Republic of Germany in 20 years, or in France, or whatever, yeah? Possible. But that's the problem. Now, what do we learn from this curve? Let's see if the next one is there. Is that we can influence it. If we teach people, the diversity diminishes. It means the risk of chaos increases. So information is something that makes this curve like that. Now we come to what we call cyberspace and the effect of cyberspace. I am not in favor of cyberspace. When I wrote a book with John Perry Barlow, who later founded the EFF, our disagreement was that he believed, maybe you know who he was, but Kathleen knew him, whatever, John Perry Barlow. He believed that the internet would be a democratic stimulus, that it would help people become better and that it would be positive. At the time I said, no. We're going to face it. It's going to be used against us. Of course, we're now, this was 96 that he wrote the Cyberspace Independence Declaration. 20 years later, he's dead. And cyberspace has become what I would call an entropic influence on our diversity. It takes away diversity. Of course, you as an individual can do great things, but believe me, 99% of the crap you put on Facebook is the same. Yeah? What you ate yesterday, how great the music was, the cats and the whatever, yeah? You understand what entropic means? It's flattening. It flattens everything. If you have a difference, and we just saw that a difference meaning diversity is essential. Without diversity, nothing happens. If there's too much, there's too much. But without diversity, nothing happens. And what internet is doing, we all start to talk English. Excuse me, all the French, what do they do? French here and Italian, whatever. We talk English and we use Wikipedia. Yeah? And Wikipedia is flattening. And if, like me, I'm using it every day and I'm using the internet to write books, you see how biased it is. Gerald Neer called it the red book, the Chinese, he called it digital Maoism. He said, little guys with the red book of Wikipedia will come after you. Oh, you changed your own name. Oh. If you look at my website, my Wikipedia website, I don't touch it. If I try, and there's all kinds of mistakes. It's a total bullshit made by some guy. If I touch like that, they'll change it back. Yes, there's some little Maoist who has the power to change my... So when I started writing this, and I've written a lot, and I was a journalist and so on, Wikipedia kind of blacklisted me and said, oh, you're the enemy of Wikipedia. Yes, I am. Yes? I am an enemy of cyberspace. Maybe within 10 or 20 years, we have to stop this crap. Because we're all going to be the same Western-oriented, English-reading, Wikipedia-influenced materialist, yeah? And life is a little bit better than that. Diversity is what we need. So, coming from diversity to cyberspace, you can see where I'm going. I'm not a culture optimist, so to speak. Oh, good, what else do we have? Oh, psychedelics. I wrote a book with Leary a long time ago about virtual reality, and I was in the ICT industry, and then I got involved with psychedelics. What do I say that? Just some thoughts. A while ago I spoke in Prague, and there was the future of psychedelics, and all kinds of people spoke about it. Old hands did it, remembering Albert, 70 years of LSD, a while. And I stood up and said, the future of psychedelics is you. You are the future. It's not the idiots that are repeating the experiments with MDMA and psilocybin, Griffiths and Hopkins. They are not changing the future. They're repeating what has been done before and what we know. But it's you who experiment with sex and psychedelics. There's no publication. You go to any psychedelic conference and nobody talks about sex. But all of it, maybe a few of you have experimented with psychedelics and sex, yeah? We don't research it. Yeah, we don't want to see it. But it's you who's doing it. Every weekend, ayahuasca, pills, millions of people. Yeah? So the new knowledge, the new understanding comes from you, not from these PhDs who are just want to make a living as, what is the new thing? Licensed psychedelic therapist. Thousands flock to these conferences, MAPS is making millions. No, it comes from you. Psychedelics and life. What do we do with it? I take another example. On these conferences, I stick up my hand, sometimes they say, what about childbirth and psychedelics? Oh, no, that's bad. Excuse me, the rest of the world, not you in this nice Western Europe and in America, all traditions use some kind of herb or psychedelic or relaxant when they have childbirth, yes? Agree? It's quite common, They might use cannabis or this or that, and I don't know. Does it work? Seemingly, because we're talking about generations and generations, cultures that have maybe existed 45,000 years, like in Australia. Do we research that? No. What we do is we apply cesarean. Cesarean is a horrible thing. 35% now in the States, China 96%, Brazil 80% among the girls that want to have a good bikini line. It's terrible because it has to do something with identity. Your identity, which is formed, and then here I can refer to Stan Grof, your identity is formed at the moment you were born also, is at least a very important moment. And remember, when you were born, you had to fight. It was not an easy thing. But we don't do that anymore. We just cut them open. Yeah? People are denied the opportunity to learn how to deal with trauma. So what is the result? In cesareans, read millennials, because those rich kids that were born cesarean in the 80s are now the millennials that make public opinion, maybe 60% of them. They don't push through. They have no perseverance. They don't know how to deal with trauma. So I would say, let's look at psychedelics, what they can do in a childbirth procedure. Let's start with cannabis. At the moment, if you come into a hospital and the mother admits that she has smoked, she's given a label, and treated differently. Yeah? While, 40–50% of the people in this room have smoked cannabis, probably 90%, yeah? So it's like ridiculous. I have a friend who's a doula. A doula is a woman who assists midwives, hebamme, in the birth process. And she says it's so important to take a woman who's going to give childbirth to a relaxation process. We don't do that. We give them oxytocin, we give them lumbar punctures, and then finally we cut them up because it's time to go for golfing, yeah? 5 o'clock Friday afternoon. So I think cesareans are a really problem. Another subject to research. Okay, psychedelics and creativity. Everybody knows it's been done. Stan Krippner wrote a book about it, but very little. We know that the creative minds of this world have experimented forever. Not today, but last centuries, before, with psychedelics, yes? Is there serious research on that? No. We talk about microdosing. Fadiman, does this microdosing project. He has now 2,000 people who wrote all kinds of stuff. The stuff is lying somewhere, nothing is happening with the research. But is microdosing, which means using psychedelics, doing something for our creativity? The only thing they're looking at is depression, and PTSD. But I don't know. I've used lots of psychedelics and I've seen great things. I think it does for me, but I'm just one little sample. You talk to many artists. I once interviewed Philip Glass in Europe, and he admitted freely that LSD opened his mind. Steve Jobs did. But it's not very common to say, hey, LSD was my mind opener, creativity. So, creativity and psychedelics. What else? I can read it. 3
minutes.
Good. Well, great. Think about what you could do with psychedelics in combination with yoga, with, I mentioned sex, but with walking. Yeah? Tell me you walk to Santiago de Compostela on LSD. Yeah? I mean, if you want to cure cancer, that's one of the things we tell people, you know. Take your bag, go to Santiago, yeah? Well, the next advice could be, and take a little bit of Albert's, yeah? It might help you. Good, but think for yourself, what would you do with psychedelics in another area of... I'm not suggesting we do F1 car racing with psychedelics, but, you know, we could give it a try, yes? Yeah? You know that many of the fighter pilots in the war were given all kinds of stuff with psychedelic effects. Okay, good. Questions, because 3 minutes, we have questions. Any questions?
Okay, I do have a question. Every time I ask why there's no more research with everything that we talk about. So the answer is because of the rules and because of the government, right? That's why.
But because of the money, probably.
Okay, all kind of answers, but mostly are about this: finance and rules.
Yes.
Do you have any idea how we can bypass that?
Well, I come from Holland, and I write books about psychedelics, and a month ago, ayahuasca was forbidden, but more than 100,000 people in Holland have done that. I can still get mushrooms or some kind of mushroom stuff. I got a lot of khat before it was illegal. Tonight we might get some. Or tomorrow, or whatever. I don't know. I use psychedelics to change myself, basically. Although I've done lots of groups, the Ayahuasca Phenomenon started with Yatra Barbosa in my house in Amsterdam in 1993. We had the first Santo Daime things outside of Brazil. So I know about the effects. But the most important effects were on me. I cannot talk about all those other people who say they saw God and whatever. It has changed me, fundamentally. I've seen things I couldn't see. And I'm telling you. And I stand up publicly and I say, I've taken this, and my name is on the book, and so, as I say, you are the ones who are going to make the future of psychedelics by telling people, I got cured of cancer, or I got cures of veganism. Yeah, one of the other projects I would, yeah? Hey, you can laugh about it. I have a friend who is a Moroccan doctor, a female doctor, and she says it's a major problem. It's a major problem in Morocco because the women are told nothing about sex. And then it comes and there's this guy and he was drunk and whatever, and they have a problem. What they now do is they inject them with Valium, the women, to prevent problems. Would it be good to give them a little MDMA? Yeah? Because I tell you, if the marriage is not, consumed, sometimes the women are killed by the family of the man. So this woman doctor says, this is life-saving. Yeah? There are many ways we can use psychedelics. Let's do it. Take some risk, yes. My kids, of course, say, Daddy, you're sick because you have taken LSD with Leary and whatever, yeah? Oh, maybe they're right. I took a risk. But it's us going to change the world. not Dr. Griffith of Hopkins, because he's just after the money. Yeah? This whole MAPS shit is about big pharma all over again. Rick Dublin wants to be the sole monopoly provider of MDMA. Yeah? You talk fucking billions, yes? And he asked me for my money, I have money, so you want to invest, this is going to be big. The big pharma of the next generation is just emerging there. It's called MAPS or whatever those foundations are, Beckley Foundation. And thousands go there. They say, I want to be a licensed psychedelic therapist. 4,000 euros a pop. Big money. Oh, I used to be a psychotherapist in the Freudian. No more business there. So now I'm going to be a psychedelic therapist. So you change the world. Each of you. Because all of you have experiences, either experiences with people around you that got cured or not cured. And please tell people about it, that it didn't work, that this guy with LSD didn't work. If we ignore that, we would be stupid. So it's you changing the world. That was the theme there, yes?
Thank you, Luc.